Did you know Flutterwave is becoming one of the fastest rising forces in global finance? You might also assume the next big fintech wave comes from Silicon Valley or Silicon Savannah. Whatever your guess, they're watching closely. So pay attention, because Flutterwave is building financial infrastructure the world can't ignore. But how? Well, Flutterwave is a Nigerian-born fintech, building the infrastructure that moves money across Africa and into global markets. You're watching a company operating where traditional financial systems fail millions. What's at stake isn't just payments, it's economic access, entrepreneurial growth, and Africa's position in the future of global finance. The rise. When you look at the global financial system, you're seeing a structure built decades ago, long before digital commerce, mobile payments, or the economic rise of Africa. And if you've ever wondered why sending money across borders still feels slow, expensive, and unnecessarily complicated, you're not imagining it. The system was never designed for you. It was designed for institutions, not individuals. For stability, not speed. For control, not access. And that's exactly where Flutterwave's rise begins, in the gap between how money should move and how it actually does. To understand Flutterwave's ascent, you need to understand the environment it was born into. Africa is one of the most economically diverse regions on the planet, yet its financial infrastructure has historically been fragmented since colonialism. With multiple different currencies, dozens of regulatory frameworks, limited interoperability, and millions of entrepreneurs locked out of global markets simply because the pipes of the financial system weren't built for them. If you've ever tried to send money to or from an African country, you felt this friction firsthand. That friction is the opportunity Flutterwave saw and seized. Founded in 2016 by Olubenga Abala and Inua Abiji, Flutterwave didn't start with the goal of becoming a flashy consumer brand. You're not dealing with a company chasing hype. You're dealing with a company building infrastructure, the invisible rails that allow money to move across borders, currencies, and platforms. While other startups were focused on apps, Flutterwave focused on the plumbing. And in finance, the plumbing is where the real power is. From day one, Flutterwave positioned itself not as a payment app, but as a payment infrastructure company. That distinction matters. Apps come and go. Infrastructure becomes the backbone of markets. And if you control the rails, you control the flow of economic activity. Flutterwave's early strategy was simple but brilliant. Solve the hardest problem first, cross-border payments, and everything else becomes easier. They built APIs that allowed businesses to accept payments from anywhere, in any currency, through any method. Cards, bank transfers, mobile money, and digital wallets are all unified under one system. You might not realize it, but this is the same strategy used by global giants like Stripe and PayPal. But Flutterwave wasn't copying them. It was adapting the model to a continent with different realities, different challenges, and different opportunities. Where Western markets had legacy systems, Africa had fragmentation. Where Western markets had predictability, Africa had volatility. And where Western markets had established rails, Africa had gaps waiting to be filled. Flutterwave built bridges where others saw barriers. As the company expanded, something interesting happened. African businesses that once struggled to reach global customers suddenly had access to international markets. Entrepreneurs who were previously limited by geography could now scale beyond borders. And global companies that once avoided African markets due to payment complexity began integrating Flutterwave's infrastructure. You're watching a shift in economic power, a rebalancing of who gets to participate in global commerce. By 2020, Flutterwave wasn't just a rising fintech, it was becoming a continental force. Partnerships with Uber, Microsoft, and major banks signaled something deeper: institutional recognition. When institutions adopt your infrastructure, you're no longer just a startup. You are a system. And systems don't rise quietly. They reshape markets. Flutterwave's rise is not just a business story. It's an economic story, a technological story, an entrepreneurial story. And for Africa, it's a story of access to markets, capital, opportunity, and global relevance. You are witnessing the emergence of a company that didn't just enter the financial system. It began rewriting it. So, with a rise this disruptive, you already know the challenges were not small. The question is, what kind of pressure does a company face when it starts rewriting financial systems? The challenges. As you know, when a company grows as fast as Flutterwave, you already know the challenges won't come from just one direction. They come from everywhere at once: regulation, competition, public perception, internal structure, and the sheer weight of building financial infrastructure across an entire continent. And if you've ever tried to scale anything beyond your comfort zone, you understand how pressure multiplies the moment success becomes visible. One of Flutterwave's first major challenges was regulatory complexity. Africa isn't a single financial market. It's a mosaic of rules, compliance standards, and central bank expectations. Every country has its own licensing requirements, its own risk frameworks, and its own interpretation of what fintech should look like. If you've ever dealt with bureaucracy, imagine that multiplied by 50. Flutterwave had to navigate this landscape while maintaining speed and a near impossible balance. Move too fast, and regulators push back. Move too slow, and competitors catch up. Then came the challenge of trust. In finance, trust isn't optional. It's the product. You're asking people and businesses to let you move their money, store their data, and power their transactions. One mistake can erase years of progress. Flutterwave had to prove, repeatedly, that its systems were secure, its processes were compliant, and its infrastructure could handle billions in transaction volume without breaking. And when you're operating in markets where financial fraud is a real concern, the burden of proof becomes even heavier. Competition added another layer of pressure. Global players like Paystack, Interswitch, Stripe, and PayPal weren't standing still. Every new partnership, every new feature, and every new market entry intensified the race. And if you've ever been in a competitive environment, you know that staying ahead requires constant reinvention. Flutterwave couldn't afford to be a one-product company. It had to evolve, from payments to remittances, from infrastructure to commerce tools, from local solutions to global integrations. Internally, rapid growth created its own challenges: scaling teams, maintaining culture, and managing operations across multiple countries. These are the kinds of problems that break companies from the inside. When you're expanding at continental speed, every decision becomes high stakes. Hire too slowly, and you stall. Hire too quickly, and you lose cohesion. Flutterwave had to build not just technology, but also organizational resilience. And as the company grew, public scrutiny intensified. When a company becomes this visible, the battlefield shifts. You're no longer just building infrastructure. You are managing perception, pressure, and narratives you do not always control. Flutterwave's challenges weren't obstacles to avoid. They were battles to fight. And each one shaped the company you see today. Therefore, this means businesses like Flutterwave, and including your own business or any other business you want to start. Overcoming many challenges means that naturally, there are turning points. But what do you think Flutterwave's turning points were? The turning points. Put it this way, every company that survives real intense, severe pressure eventually reaches a moment where the trajectory shifts. And if you've ever built anything of your own, you know these moments don't arrive with warning signs. They appear in the middle of uncertainty when you are forced to make decisions that either elevate you or expose you. Flutterwave's journey is no different. Its rise wasn't a straight line. It was shaped by turning points that redefined what the company could become. One of the earliest turning points came when Flutterwave secured major partnerships with global brands. When Uber integrated Flutterwave into its African operations, it wasn't just a business deal. It was not validation. It was simply evidence that Africa, not just Nigeria, are very competitive markets. You're watching a young African fintech suddenly powering transactions for one of the world's most recognizable companies. That moment signaled to investors, regulators, and competitors that Flutterwave wasn't just participating in the market, it was influencing it. Another turning point arrived when the company expanded beyond payments. Flutterwave could have stayed comfortable as a payment processor, but comfort doesn't build category leaders. The launch of products like Barter and Later Send showed a strategic shift from infrastructure alone to consumer-facing solutions. If you've ever tried to scale a business, you understand how bold that move is. It's one thing to power transactions in the background. It's another to step into the spotlight and compete for consumer trust. Then came the funding milestones. Flutterwave's Series B and Series C rounds didn't just inject capital. They changed the company's global perception. Crossing the billion-dollar valuation mark turned Flutterwave into one of Africa's most valuable startups. And whether you like it or not, valuation changes how the world treats you. Investors expect more. Regulators watch more closely. Competitors react faster. You're no longer proving potential, you're proving durability. A quieter but equally important turning point was the company's expansion into new markets. Entering North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East required more than technology. It required operational discipline, regulatory negotiation, and strategic patience. These moves signaled that Flutterwave wasn't building for Africa alone. It was building from Africa to the world. And finally, one of the most defining turning points came from within, the realization that infrastructure alone wouldn't secure the future. Flutterwave needed to become an ecosystem, a platform that businesses, creators, and consumers could rely on. That shift in mindset transformed the company's ambition and set the stage for its next evolution. And Flutterwave's turning points reveal a company learning, adapting, and expanding its identity in real time. So, as you know, with all great businesses that expand and evolve, comes with strategies. With that said, what do you think are the strategic steps that they made, and what would you have done? The challenges. With all businesses, there are strategic steps. So, when you study any company that scales at exceptional acceleration, you realize growth isn't accidental. It is engineered. And if you've ever tried to build something meaningful, you know strategy becomes the difference between momentum and collapse. Flutterwave's rise wasn't powered by luck or timing alone. It was driven by deliberate strategic decisions that shaped how the company operated, expanded, and positioned itself in global markets. One of Flutterwave's core strategies was focusing on infrastructure before visibility. While many startups chase branding, Flutterwave chased reliability. You're looking at a company that understood something most founders overlook. In finance, the real power sits beneath the surface. By building strong APIs, resilient payment rails, and scalable architecture, Flutterwave created a foundation that businesses could trust long before the public even knew the name. Another key strategy was partnership leverage. Instead of trying to dominate every market alone, Flutterwave aligned itself with banks, regulators, and global brands. Uber, Microsoft, and major African financial institutions weren't just clients. They were strategic amplifiers. If you've ever tried to grow a business, you know partnerships can open doors that marketing never will. Flutterwave used collaboration as a force multiplier. The company also adopted a multi-product strategy early. Payments were the entry point, but not the destination. By launching barter, send, and later expanding into commerce tools, Flutterwave positioned itself as an ecosystem rather than a single service provider. You're watching a company that understood diversification isn't about doing more, it's about owning more of the value chain. Geographic expansion was another strategic pillar. Flutterwave didn't wait to perfect its model before scaling. It expanded into East Africa, North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East with calculated speed. This wasn't reckless growth, it was strategic presence. Being early in emerging markets meant capturing demand before competitors even arrived. Internally, Flutterwave invested heavily in operational structure. Scaling teams across multiple countries requires discipline, not improvisation. The company built compliance units, engineering hubs, and regional leadership teams to ensure growth didn't outpace stability. If you've ever scaled a team, you know structure is what prevents success from becoming chaos. And finally, Flutterwave embraced narrative strategy. In modern business, perception shapes opportunity. By positioning itself as a symbol of African innovation, the company attracted global attention, investor confidence, and continental pride. You're seeing a company that understood the power of the story as much as the power of software. Strategies don't guarantee success, but they create the conditions for it. And Flutterwave's strategic decisions reveal a company intentionally designing its future, which proves that there are deeper lessons you can learn from Flutterwave, especially as they are a fintech company that started when and where nobody expected. So what are the lessons? In order to know what the lessons are, you have to look deep within Flutterwave's rise. You start to see the lessons that sit behind every major business story. Not the obvious ones, the deeper ones. The ones about people, pressure, ambition, and the decisions that quietly shape a company's destiny. And if you've ever tried to build something of your own, you already know the real lessons rarely come from the surface. One of the first lessons is simple. People move toward whatever reduces their frustration. Flutterwave didn't win because it shouted the loudest. It won because it removed friction. It made something complicated and felt simple. And in business, the moment you make someone's life easier, you earn a level of loyalty that marketing can't manufacture. The second major lesson sits in how influence works. In finance, the real power doesn't belong to the loudest brand. It belongs to whoever controls the rails. Flutterwave understood that if you build the pipes that money flows through, you don't have to chase relevance. Relevance comes to you. That's the difference between being a participant and being a foundation. The third major lesson in how money behaves. Money gravitates toward efficiency, toward speed, toward certainty. Flutterwave didn't chase capital. It built systems that made capital chase them. And if you've ever tried to raise money, you know that's the position you want to be in, where investors pursue you, not the other way around. Decision-making reveals the fourth major lesson. Every major shift in Flutterwave's journey came from choosing long-term positioning over short-term comfort, infrastructure over hype, partnerships over ego, expansion over hesitation. You felt this in your own life. The decisions that stretch you are the ones that change you. Identity is the fifth major lesson that plays a pivotal role, too. Flutterwave didn't just build a product. It built a message that African companies can operate at global scale. When you choose your identity intentionally, the world responds differently. And above all, ambition is the final lesson. Not the loud kin, the structural kind. The kind that shows up in architecture, in partnerships, in the quiet decisions that compound over time. These aren't just Flutterwave's lessons. They're lessons you can apply to your own path if you're willing to look deeper. So, what lessons are relevant to you that you will use for your business? To help you decide which lessons you will use for your business, just think about it deeply. When you strip away the strategy, the funding rounds, the partnerships, and the headlines, you're left with something people rarely talk about: the emotional cost of building something at this scale. Because behind every milestone Flutterwave achieved, there was pressure, doubt, sacrifice, and the kind of internal battles you only understand if you've ever tried to build something that stretches you beyond who you were. The feel of the weight of expectation. The moment Flutterwave became a symbol of African innovation, the pressure doubled. You're no longer just building a company, you're carrying a narrative. Every decision feels heavier. Every mistake feels louder. And if you've ever been in a position where people expect greatness from you, you know that expectation can feel like both fuel and fire. And when you have a successful business, there is an irony. The higher you climb, the more isolated the journey becomes. Flutterwave's rise brought global attention, but attention doesn't equal understanding. Investors see numbers, regulators see compliance, competitors see opportunity. But only the people inside the company feel the late nights, the uncertainty, the fear of losing momentum. You felt this to the moments where everyone sees your progress, but no one sees the pressure behind it. And when you have ambition for your business, so big that you know it will make waves, but just like waves, there are ups and downs, which are very tense moments. As ambition sounds glamorous from the outside, but inside, it's conflict. It's choosing growth over comfort. It's choosing responsibility over ease. It's choosing to keep going when stopping would be simpler. Flutterwave's ambition wasn't loud, it was disciplined. And if you've ever chased something bigger than yourself, you know ambition demands a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Then comes yet another irony. When you have a high level of impact, the more people you help, the more people depend on you. Flutterwave didn't just build infrastructure, it built expectations. Businesses relied on them. Creators relied on them. Entire markets relied on them. And when people rely on you, you don't get to collapse, even when you feel like it. And finally, there's triumph, success. The one that feels satisfactory. Not the public one, the private one. The quiet realization that despite the pressure, the scrutiny, the uncertainty, you built something that mattered. That's the deep root of Flutterwave's journey. And somewhere in it, you'll recognize parts of your own journey too, especially for your business. So, with all that said, what do you believe is the principle in all of this? The principle. To understand the principle, you have to look at everything Flutterwave has been through. The rise, the challenges, the turning points, the strategies, the lessons, the emotional cost. You start to realize something deeper. something that sits beneath all the noise, all the milestones. And if you've ever tried to build something meaningful, you already know this principle instinctively, even if you've never put it into words. The principle is that growth rewards the people who are willing to become someone new. Because when you study Flutterwave's journey closely, you see a pattern. Every breakthrough required a shift in thinking, a shift in identity, a shift in how they responded to pressure. You're watching a company that didn't just scale its technology, it scaled its mindset. And if you've ever tried to elevate your own life or business, you know that mindset is the first infrastructure you ever build. This principle shows up in the way Flutterwave handled friction. Instead of complaining about the complexity of African markets, they embraced it. They built through it. They built around it. They built it because of it. And that's a lesson for you too. The obstacles in front of you aren't barriers, they're instructions. It shows up in how they handled expectation. The moment the world started paying attention, the pressure doubled. But pressure didn't break them, it shaped them. And if you've ever been under pressure, you know it forces you to grow into someone who can carry the weight you once feared. It shows up in their ambition. Not loud ambition, disciplined ambition. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that shows up in decisions, not declarations. You felt this too, the quiet pull towards something bigger, even when you can't explain it to anyone else. It shows up in their identity. Flutterwave didn't wait for permission to operate at a global scale. They acted like a global company long before the world labeled them one. And that's a principle you can apply immediately. Identity precedes achievement. You become it internally before you become it externally. And it shows up in their resilience. Every setback, every challenge, every moment of uncertainty forced them to evolve. Not emotionally, structurally. They became stronger because they had no choice. So, to recap, the principle is simple but powerful. Your business grows when you grow. And the moment you commit to becoming the person your vision requires, everything else begins to shift. And that is how and why Flutterwave is becoming the new wave for global finance.